And teachings of Srila Prabhupada. All of you can recite the prayers. Namavam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we will be starting from 5.27, and in this chapter there are only 3 verses. 27, 28 is a continuous verse, 29th, then 6.1 to 4. So total 7 verses we'll cover. These two are a combined verse. All of you can recite this verse. Sparshan krutva bahir bahyams Chakshus chaivantare bhruvoh Pranapano samau krutva Nasabhyantara charino Yatendriya manobuddhir Munir moksha parayanaha Vikatecha bhayat krodo Yas sada mukta eva saha. One second. Sparshan krutva bahir bahyams Chakshus shaivantare bhruvoh Pranapano samau krutva Nasabhyantara charino Yatendriya manobuddhir Munir moksha parayanaha Vikatecha bhayat krodo Yassada mukta eva saha. See, in the last part we have seen Krishna explaining that one can achieve perfection through devotional service. So here in 2 verses, Krishna is saying you can achieve the same by following Ashtanga Yoga. So that's why he's saying Sparshan krutva bahir bahyams. External sense objects such as sound, krutva, doing so. Bahir bahyams, by engaging. Chakshuhu chaivantare bhruvoho, by closing the eyes and concentrating upon the inward and shutting all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the 2 eyebrows. Chakshus chaivantare bhruvoho, chakshuhu cha abhyantara bhruvoho, between the 2 eyebrows, focusing upon suspending the inward and outward breaths within pranapano samau krutva, and thus controlling the mind, intelligence and senses. Nasyabhyantara charino yatendriya manobuddhir munir moksha parayanaha. The transcendentalist aiming at liberation, moksha parayanaha. Vigatecha bhayakrodo. He becomes free from icha, bhayakrodaha, desire, fear and anger. Yada sada, yas sada mukta eva saha. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. Yas sada mukta eva saha. So the whole aspect is through Ashtanga Yoga also, you will be able to come up to the point of Mukti, liberation. Now, what is this liberation in Supreme? Being engaged in Krishna consciousness, one understands his spiritual identity. Then Supreme Lord then he will understand the Supreme Lord by means of devotional service. Then one is qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. So it's a systematic way. By Krishna consciousness, one understands that he is a spiritual soul and he is an eternal servant of the Lord. And servant means he has to engage in devotional service. When he engages in devotional service, he will be able to understand about the Supreme Lord. So when he becomes perfected in the process, he will be able to perceive the Lord in every sphere or every step of his activity. That's why this is called as liberation in the Supreme. Okay, now, then how does Ashtanga Yoga help one? One becomes free from all kinds of fear, desire, and anger. Ichcha, bhaya, krodha. So then one can gain control over the senses, then refrain from outward sense objects and prepare oneself from liberation the Supreme. So for one who is trying to advance in spiritual life, controlling of the senses is very much important. Then one can feel the presence of the super soul in the transcendental situation. When he is able to meditate on the super soul within, then he is able to experience that by undergoing this pranayama parayanaha. So how Krishna consciousness process is better way of controlling the senses than Ashtanga Yoga, because it's a two subjects. One is Ashtanga Yoga, other one is practicing Krishna consciousness. Being always engaged in devotional service, there is no risk of losing senses to some other engagements. Because in Krishna consciousness is not refraining from sensual activity, but engaging the senses in higher activity. This is what practically Krishna consciousness is. This is what is explained in 2nd chapter, 59th shloka. Rasavarjam rasopiyasya param drushva nivartate. By experiencing higher taste, one rejects lower taste. So this is what the practical aspect of devotional service is. That's why this is much better than practicing Ashtanga Yoga. So what does this Ashtanga Yoga include? There are 8 parts, Ashtanga. There are 8 divisions to it. One is Yama, universal morality, means following some rules and regulations. Niyama, then some do's and some don'ts, rules and regulations it comes. Asana, by bodily postures. Pranayama, by breathing exercises. Pratyahara, by control of senses. Dharana, concentration of the mind. Dhyana, meditate on the divine. And Samadhi, union with the divine. This is the Ashtanga Yoga process. In 8 aspects, it will encourage us to come to the platform of Samadhi, is complete absorption into the Supreme. So, all of us know about this Charlie Chaplin. We know he is a great actor. Without pronouncing any word, he is able to generate laughter in all of us. Most of his movies were all silent. He never spoke any word, but he left us with everlasting impressions. So once, Charlie Chaplin told the audience a wonderful joke, and all people started laughing. He repeated the same joke, but only few people were laughing. He again repeated the same joke till no one was laughing. Then he started communicating to everyone. When you cannot laugh on the same joke again and again, why do you cry again and again on the same problem? This is what very important for us. When we are going through any problem, we repeatedly cry regarding that problem. But what is the use? Simply crying will not give any solution. We have to practically try to see that how we'll be able to come out of it. That is what we are supposed to understand from all these perspectives. So Prabhupada explains, this yoga practice means withdrawing the senses from the sense object. The Bhakti Yoga process means not wanting to be affected by the beauty of a woman or man, and instead holding in my mind a vision of the beauty of Krishna. In this way, my desires to see a beautiful man or woman diminish even without closing my eyes. If the mind is concentrated on the beauty of Krishna, I can see beautiful girls as Krishna's gopis. That is another vision. So if I close my eyes and if some beautiful girl is in my imagination, what is the use of closing my eyes? By force, you cannot control the senses. There are many examples where even great yogis have failed. Real sense control lies in purifying the senses in the activities of Krishna consciousness. So this is the practical aspect. Simply just by closing the eyes is no use, because mind is reeling on the sense objects. Then there is no point of closing the eyes. So this is the benefit of practicing Bhakti Yoga. So this is one important verse in Bhagavad Gita. All of us can recite. Bhoktaram yajna tapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhrudam Sarvabhutanam Jnatva Mam Shantim Richati. Bhoktaram yajna tapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhrudam Sarvabhutanam Jnatva Mam Shantim Richati. See, three aspects about Lord Krishna are explained here. Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasham. The Lord is the enjoyer of all sacrifices and penances. Yajna Tapasham. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He is the master of all material and spiritual worlds. Suhrudam Sarva Bhutanam. He is the well-wisher of all living entities. Jnatva, knowing about the Lord in these three aspects. Shantim Richati. One attains everlasting peace. So, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasham, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, Suhrudam Sarva Bhutanam, attains peace, Shantim Richati, from the pangs of material miseries, Jnatva, a person in full consciousness of me. So this is the practical literal translation. So what is work in Krishna consciousness? To work in Krishna consciousness means to work in full knowledge of Lord as the predominator. We are the predominated and Lord is the predominator. So that is the actual work in Krishna consciousness. Such work is non-different from transcendental knowledge because we are able to work for the Lord. By the process, we will be able to understand about the Lord. So this is non-different from transcendental knowledge. Direct Krishna consciousness is Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is a path leading to Bhakti Yoga. So as explained earlier also, there is some ladder. In the ladder, the highest stage is Bhakti Yoga. The basic stages are Sankhya, Karma, Jnana, Dhyana. All these things are on the path for us to reach us to the point of Bhakti Yoga. Because only by Bhakti, one can understand the Lord and one can reach the Lord. If all of you have Bhagavad Gita in front of you, please open 18th chapter, 55 sloka. Have you opened?
Swamiji.
Yes, sir.
You can read the translation. Bhaktyamam abhijanati, that is the shloka.
One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service.
That's it. So only by devotional service, one can understand about the Lord. So Krishna is confirming this in the 18th chapter. Okay, you can open again 11.54.
Page number 612, Prabhu.
Okay, please read.
One who is engaged in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of previous activities and from mental speculation.
No, what? 11.54?
Sorry, 55.
My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly.
So simply, that's it, done. As by one can understand the Lord only by devotional service. So only by Bhakti Yoga one can understand about Krishna. There is no other aspect, no other possibility of understanding Krishna by any other process. So this is the aspect what we are trying to communicate, that Krishna can only be understood by Bhakti Yoga, not by any other process. Look at Krishna is himself revealing that. We are not speculating about this subject. I wanted to just make clear about this from Krishna's own words. Okay. So then explain the position of Jiva as eternal servant. Pure soul is the eternal servant of God as fragmental part and parcel. What is the cause of his suffering? Contact with Maya, illusion due to desire to lord it over. You can open 15.7, please.
The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal, fragmental parts due to conditioned life.
No, I think it is not complete.
Can
They
I
are
read,
struggling
Prabhu?
very hard with
733.
six senses, which includes the mind.
So he is eternal, fragmental part and parcel of the Lord. Because of his identification with mind plus 5 senses, he is struggling hard within this material world. Correct?
Yes.
So that is the answer. See, everything we are trying to connect everything from Bhagavad Gita only. So Prabhupada is trying to give us the basis. So what is the position of Jiva? Then the highest perfection of life, only devotional service can award peace to the human being. Bhakti is the only option for us, and there is no other opportunity for us to attain this transcendental happiness, peace. Ashtanga yoga is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness because the ultimate purpose is served. Ashtanga is a process of gradual elevation of 8 steps. These 8 steps only preface perfection by devotional service. So that's why in that Ashtanga yoga also one should develop love for the Lord. Then only there will be perfection towards this Ashtanga yoga. In any aspect, either in karma, jnana or Ashtanga, if it has to be successful, there should be an element of love added to it. Only then there is a perfection in that perspective. That's what Prabhupada is trying to update to us. So Krishna consciousness is an arousing of a spiritual experience in the material world. One has to execute work in terms of material necessities as long as one is in contact with the matter. Because we cannot completely refrain from the work. If we have to survive in this world, we have to work. So how do you associate with matter when you are trying to work and without getting any reaction? That is the technical principle of this Krishna consciousness. However, Krishna consciousness brings one into spiritual life while one is in the jurisdiction of matter. It is like you are in the water and you are not connected with the water, like Padma Patram Ivambasa. The entire water is there and the lotus leaf is floating on the water, but lotus leaf is not connected with the water. So that is the principle already explained in Bhagavad Gita. This is the point what Krishna is Prabhupada is trying to conclude to us through this 5th chapter, because we are in the last part of this chapter. And Lord is not partial to anyone, but reciprocates according to our approach. Ye yatamam prapadyante tam sateva bhajamyaham. According to our sincerity, Lord will reciprocate. You can open 4.11.
Yes, Prabhu.
Please
Can I
read,
read, Prabhu?
Please read the translation.
All of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha.
So as this according to their surrender, Krishna reciprocates. So this is simple principle. So according to our approach, Lord will reciprocate. The more one is advanced, more one is free from the clutches of Maya. Everything depends upon one's personal performance of duties in Krishna consciousness. These duties help one control the senses and conquer the influence of desire and anger, kama, krodha. To stand fast in Krishna consciousness and controlling the above mentioned passions, one remains in transcendental stage or Brahma Nirvana. So this is the advanced perfection what one comes through by controlling their senses, influences of desire and anger. Then one comes to the platform of transcendental stage called as Brahma Nirvana. So this word has been elaborately described in the last session. So the 3 purposes, whatever have been mentioned in the shloka, are knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, supreme lord of all planets and demigods, benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. Then one achieves the ultimate peace. So there once lived a businessman who had a very lazy and fun-loving son. But the businessman wanted his son to be hardworking and responsible. He wanted him to realize the value of labor. One day, he called his son and said, Today, I want you to go out and earn something, failing which you will not be able to have any dinner tonight. The boy was callous because he was not used to any kind of work. This demand by his father scared him, and he went crying straight to his mother. Her heart melted at the sight of the tears in her son's eyes. She grew restless. In an endeavor to help, she gave him a gold coin. In the evening, when the father asked his son what he had earned, the son promptly presented him the gold coin. The father then asked him to throw it into a well. The son did as he was told. The father was a man of wisdom and experience and guessed that the source of the gold coin was the boy's mother. The next day, he sent his wife to her parents' town and asked his son to go and earn something with the threat of being denied the night meals if he failed. This time, he went crying to his sister, who sympathized with him and gave him a rupee coin out of her savings. When his father asked him what he had earned, the boy tossed the rupee coin at him. The father again asked him to throw it in the well. The son did it quite readily. Again, the father's wisdom told him that the rupee coin was not earned by his son. He sent his daughter to her daughter-in-law's house. He again asked the son to go out and earn. This time, there was no one to help him out. The son was forced to go to the market in search of work. One of the shopkeepers there told him that he would pay him 2 rupees if he carried his trunk to his house. The rich man's son could not refuse and was drenched in sweat by the time he finished the job. His feet were trembling and his neck and back were aching. There were rashes on his back. As he returned home and produced a 2 rupee note before his father and was asked to throw it into the well, the horrified son almost cried out. He could not imagine throwing his hard-earned money like this. He said, crying, "Father, my entire body is aching. My back has rashes, and you are asking me to throw the money into the well." At this, the businessman smiled. He told him that one feels the pain only when the fruits of hard labor are wasted. On earlier 2 occasions, he was helped by his mother and sister. Therefore, he had no pain in throwing the coins into the well. The son now realized the value of hard work. He vowed never to be lazy and safe keep his father's wealth. The father handed over the keys of his shop to the son and promised to guide him through the rest of his life. So, and there was one more aspect. Most of us have heard about this story. How many of you heard about this story? No email ID?
No, Prabhu.
No.
Okay. So, young boy went to an attendant job. It was like a housekeeping job. He has to clean the office. So, after the interview was done, he was offered the job only if he had an email. So, he said, "I don't have any study also. How I can have email?" So, because the boy had none of these things, he did not get the job. Now he is left with some 50 rupees in his pocket. So when he came out of the shop, because he doesn't have any email or anything, because he was denied the job, he thought what I should do with that 50 rupees. He went to a nearby supermarket, purchased whatever kilos of tomatoes, what he could get. He packed them into small packets, half of kilos, and he sold tomatoes door to door. So in a short time, he was able to make his 50 rupees into 100 rupees. He repeated it thrice, and at the end of the day, he was able to have 300 rupees. Now he felt happy to know that he can survive in this way. So following this practice, for a few days, he was able to purchase his own cycle. Then he started purchasing his own bike. Then as his business grew, he became a very rich man and he owned a chain of supermarkets. One day, he invited a party of rich people and everybody was celebrating all these things and all. There was one, his entire family was able to be recognized and everybody were appreciating how in a short span he became very rich man, and all the interviews were going on. So after a few days, he had invited one, LIC agent. He wanted to take some policies and for safekeep of his company and some from his family members and all. So when the LIC agent was explaining all these things to him, and he had asked him to give his email so that he will be able to pass on the technical details like ID, password, all these things and all. the owner said, I don't have any of these email ID. So he was very much surprised. He thought, if email ID was not there, if you could create so many things, if email ID would have been there, what would you have been? Where would you have been? So where we would have been? If there is an email
As a
ID,
servant in some family.
you would have been a housekeeping boy in that company.
Yeah.
So sometimes, see, some basic things, common sense is required. So all these things one has to be very careful in trying to understand how to bring out a meaningful life out of whatever situation they are. So not to become despondent and not to lose the track. The whole perspective is how one can utilize with whatever entities we have and bring out the best out of it. That's the whole perspective, and be happy in the process. Not to lose the confidence and become sorrow and become like a loser and a failure personality. That's the whole perspective here. Okay, any doubts?
No, Prabhu.
So all of us can start the 6th chapter. This is called as Sankhya philosophy, also known as Dhyana Yoga, meditation. Now Krishna in the last 2 verses, he had explained how one can reach to the perfection by practicing Ashtanga Yoga. And this chapter will technically explain to us the details of Ashtanga Yoga. Okay. Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Anashrita Karma Phalam.
Anashrita Karma Phalam.
Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha.
Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha.
Sannyasi cha yogi cha.
Sannyasi cha yogi cha.
Na ninagdir na cha kriyaha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Anashrita Karma Phalam.
Anashrita Karma Phalam.
Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha. Sa sannyasi cha yogi cha.
Sannyasi cha yogi cha.
Na niragnir na cha kriyaha. See, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Lord is explaining. Anashrita karma phalam, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work, karma phalam, anashritaha. Karyam karma karotiha, and one who works as if he is obliged. Sa sannyasi, he is in the renounced order of life. Yogi cha, and he is a true mystic. Na niragnir na cha kriyaha, not that he who lights no fire and performs no work. So here Prabhupada is explaining in the purport about who is a perfect sannyasi or a perfect yogi. The yogi cha, sannyasi cha. So one who works for the satisfaction of Krishna without self-interest. He has no desire for self-satisfaction. His criterion of success is satisfaction of Krishna. With it, anashritaha. Ashritaha means taking shelter of somebody. Anashritaha means without shelter of somebody. So how karma yoga is better than Ashtanga yoga? Ashtanga yoga is for controlling the mind and the senses, and it is very difficult to perform in this age of Kali. So everyone is working for personal self-interest, either concentrated or extended. Means me, I, me, myself, my family, my society, my nation, like that. It goes on. My state, my nation, it is called as extended. Sannyasis are self-interested because they want to merge in the impersonal Brahman. Mystic yogis practice yoga system with some satisfaction of the personal self. So, but the criteria of perfection is to act in Krishna consciousness, not with a view to enjoy the fruits of labor. The limbs of the body work for the satisfaction of the whole. Similarly, because we are part and parcel of the Lord, part is supposed to be working for the satisfaction of the whole. That's how the principle of every living entity is. But some people, they get identified that, okay, I want to refrain from all this work and I want to just budge into the Lord because this world is full of problems. I want to quit all these problems. I want to run away from these problems. So in that way, they will not be able to come to the proper conclusion of our philosophy. Like in Siksha Ashtaka, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, Na danam, na janam, na sundarin, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmani ishware, bhavatad bhakti rahaitu kitvai. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, na dhanam,
Earphones inkote.
na janam. I don't want to enjoy beautiful women, na sundarim. Nor do I want any number of followers, na janam. Kavitamba jagadisha kamaye. Or I do want what I want. Mama janmani janmani ishware. All I want is causeless mercy. Bhavatad bhaktir. Ahaituki. Causeless mercy of your devotion service. Janmani janmani ishware. Birth after birth. So Prabhupada explains about this subject in lecture. Meditation means to stop all mundane occupation. Those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness have to work for Krishna just like an upset child. The mother says, my dear child, sit down here. And if the mother can keep him occupied doing various things, the child will be content. The whole Bhagavad Gita is action. Fight for me. There are no don'ts. Krishna consciousness does not mean sitting idly. We can think of Krishna's pastimes, how they are full of activities. In the spiritual world, Krishna is always dancing. You have 24 hours to dance and to eat and no time to sit around. There is no question of sitting down. Have you ever heard about gopis meditating or sitting down? Or even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Means this is not an activity of refraining from work. So Krishna prescribes that anashrita karma phalam. One who works without any expectation of result or reward. Then why does he work? Karyam. There are two kinds of duty of life. One is to serve the illusion and the other is to serve the reality. When you serve reality, that is called as real sannyasa. And when we serve the illusion, that is called as maya. Simple. So there was a lady who was doing her research, and she used to write so many articles and books inspiring people and all. For a long time, she was not able to do any writing. She was not getting any idea. So she wanted to get some new idea. So when she was browsing through something, she came across one statement about how metals or how jewelry were made. She thought, let me go and visit the goldsmith, so that she will be able to get some inspiration from him, and she will be able to understand the subject, and she will be able to write any new book or article about that. So she called up some jeweler, and she went to him, goldsmith, and she started discussing with him, understand from him, and how things happen, how jewelry is made, and how the practical elements of that she was discussing with him. So then he wanted to show her how things happen. So he took her to a place where the metals are melted. He had taken a small bar of silver with him, which is practically impure. So then he put in the center of the flame. Then he was holding it tight. As the heat increases, then she had asked, why you are holding it to the center of the flame? Why not at some other location? The goldsmith explained to her that the center of the flame is where the maximum heat will be. The faster the silver will melt. Then she had asked him how she will get to know that the silver is melted, and does he need to stand there and sit there continuously holding it and seeing it and observing it? He said, yes, you have to be very attentive. And when you are holding, the impurities will come to the floating top. And as the impurities are cleaned, the silver will become like a mirror. So when you are able to see your own reflection in that silver, then you will be in a perfect process. Then you will be able to understand that the silver is pure now. If you are very inattentive, then there is every chance that silver can get burnt and the whole metal can be lost. So one has to be very attentive, one has to be very conscious, one has to be very systematic in the process. So when he had explained all these things and all, then she had got an idea. So she started understanding. So the entire process is Lord is holding us in the middle of the flame, so that all these miseries will start acting upon us and will start bringing out all the bad things to the top of us. And once all the bad things are cleansed, then the heart becomes clean, and in that heart one is able to observe that Paramatma, then one is in that purified standard, one is in the practice of perfection, then one is able to complete to the conclusion, and one is able to meet the Lord in his heart, then one has achieved this perfection. From this, she had written a wonderful article and book, and she got very awards and recognition for that. So one should also be, when people think that they are in the midst of so many problems, then that is the thing. That is the thing that Lord is placing us with problems. He is refining us. He is purifying us. So when the purification is there, all the unwanted things keep coming up. So in that way, Lord is saying, so your heart is filled with so many unwanted things. We should get rid of all these unwanted things. So when heart becomes clean, when heart becomes pure, then Lord appears on that heart, and one will be able to come to the perfection stage. So this is the understanding for us from this. Okay, all of you can recite the next verse. Yam sannyasam iti prahur.
Yam sannyasam iti prahur.
Yogam tat vidhi pandava.
Yogam tam vidhi pandava.
Nahi asanyasya sankalpo.
Nahi asanyasya sankalpo.
Yogi bhavati kasyana.
Yogi bhavati kasyana.
Yam sannyasam iti prahur.
Yam sannyasam iti prahur.
Yogam tam vidhi pandava.
Yogam tam vidhi pandava.
Nahi asanyasya sankalpo.
Nahi asanyasya sankalpo.
Yogi bhavati kasyana.
Yogi bhavati kasyana.
So what is called as renunciation? Yam sannyasam iti prahu. Yogam tam. It is the same thing as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. Vidhi Pandava, you should understand. Nahi asanyasya sankalpaha. Nor should one become a yogi unless he asankalpasya, he renounces a desire for sense gratification. Yogi bhavati kasyana. He cannot become a yogi unless asanyasya sankalpa, he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So what is real sannyasa yoga or bhakti? One should know his constitutional position as a living entity and to act accordingly. He has no separate identity. He is the marginal energy of the Lord. He is entrapped by Maya and is conditioned. When he is aware of the spiritual energy, he is in real and natural state of life. So then in complete knowledge, one ceases all material sense gratification. Yogis come to the stage by restraining senses from sense gratification. Devotees do not engage in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, a devotee is a sannyasi and yogi. So bhakti includes the process of jnana and yoga, knowledge and restraining the senses. So what is the real aim of life? To give up all selfish satisfaction and to be prepared to satisfy the Supreme. This is the real aim of life. There is no sense gratification or selfish motive. Everything is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And who can achieve this? A person, a Krishna conscious person, has no desire for any kind of self-enjoyment and is always engaged for the enjoyment of the Supreme. And who does not know the same? Who does not know the same? Those who are not engaged in self-satisfaction, or those who are engaged in self-satisfaction, they do not know this aim. They are lost into this world. So Prabhupada explains about this in one lecture. Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava. Oh Arjuna, you can understand what is sannyasa and what is yoga. They are the same principle. Nahi asanyasya sankalpo yogi bhavati kasyana. Because without being freed from desires of sense and gratification, nobody can become either a yogi or a sannyasi. Everyone is trying to have some profit out of his activities. There are many yogis, they perform yoga system or teach yoga system for some profit. But that is not the idea of yoga system. Everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Everything, whatever we do, either as ordinary worker or as sannyasi or as yogi or as jnani, all our energy should be dotted with Krishna consciousness. That is real sannyasa, that is real yoga. So in olden days, the kings used to respect sadhus and sannyasis a lot. So one morning, a great sadhu knocked on the door of a king and asked him to fill his begging bowl with anything. The king was very happy to hear the sadhu's request, and he ordered his staff to fill the bowl with gold coins. The moment the gold coins were put in the bowl, instantly they used to disappear. And this used to happen again and again. By the end of the day, the entire king's treasury was empty and the bowl was also empty. So nothing from the king's treasury was able to fill the bowl. At last, with folded hands, the king asked the sadhu in a humble mode, "Please tell me the secret to fill this mysterious bowl." The sadhu said, "This bowl is made from the heart of a human being. Nothing of this world can satisfy and fill a human heart. Name, fame, power, money, sex, comforts, and so on can never fill human heart. Human heart is made to love God, and only love of God can fill it." That is the perception. That is the answer what we got from that sadhu. So in that way, this human heart, if you try to satisfy, it can never be satisfied. It will be hankering for more, or something else. So it can only be satisfied when we achieve love of Godhead. So simple principle explained in a very thoughtful way. So all of us can repeat this verse again. Arurukshor muner yogam.
Arurukshor muner yogam.
Karma karanam uchyate.
Karma
Karanam uchyate.
Yoga rudasya tasyaiva.
Tasyaiva.
Shamah karanam uchyate.
Karanam uchyate.
Arurukshor muner yogam.
Arurukshor muner yogam.
Karma karanam uchyate.
Karanam uchyate.
Yoga rudasya tasyaiva.
Tasyaiva.
Shamah karanam uchyate.
Karanam uchyate.
So there are two aspects. One is a neophyte stage, one is an advanced stage. For one who is in a neophyte, Arurukshor, Muner Yogam, Karma Karanam Uchyate. The Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. For the beginner, work is said to be the means. Yoga Rudasya Tasyaiva, for one who has already attained to yoga, Shamak Karanam Uchyate, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. For the neophyte, he has to work in all sorts of activity. And for the devotee, cessation of all sorts of material activities is said to be the means. So in every stage, there are two categories in every perspective. A beginner and a perfectioner, an amateur and a professional. So our present state is materially attached. The topmost is spiritual realization, Yoga Rurukshuk stage, and there is Yoga Ruda stage. The first stages is like cultivate knowledge, Jnana Yoga. Then comes meditate and control, that is called as Dhyana Yoga. Then comes connect and serve, that is called as Bhakti Yoga. This is called as the yoga ladder, what I was explaining in the last aspect. So what is yoga? The process of linking oneself with the Supreme is called as yoga. Analogy, compared to ladder beginning from lowest material condition of Jiva to perfect self-realization in pure spiritual life. So according to different elevations known by different names, Jnana, Dhyana and Bhakti. The beginning of the ladder is called as Yoga Rurukshuhu and the highest stage is called as Yoga Ruda. So what is this Eightfold Yoga system, Ashtanga Yoga? The practice of meditation through regulative principles of life and by different sitting postures. We have seen that in the last chapter. So which leads to perfect mental equilibrium to control the senses. Yes, Ashtanga Yoga is to restrain the senses and bring mind under control. So those who are accomplished, one ceases all disturbing mental activities. He will not get carried away or drifted away by mental agonies. Then what is this Bhakti Yoga system? By always thinking of Krishna from the beginning, one is situated on the platform of meditation. By constantly engaging in the service of Krishna, he ceases all material activities. So this is the Bhakti Yoga principle. So Prabhupada explains, Krishna is asking Arjuna, Tasmad Yogi Bhava Arjuna. My dear Arjuna, become a yogi. But at the same time, he is asking him to fight. Now we know yogi sits down at a place and meditates and concentrates his mind and controls his senses. Then how can he fight at the same time? This is the mystery of Bhagavad Gita. You can remain a fighting man and at the same time be the highest yogi or highest sannyasi. In Krishna consciousness, you have to fight for Krishna. If you fight for Krishna, if you work for Krishna, if you eat for Krishna, if you sleep for Krishna, if you do everything for Krishna, then you are a yogi, you are a sannyasi, and you are everything. So simple principle, Prabhupada elaborated in a practical way. So there were two people who had joined a company. One was Aryan and one was Arjun. Both of them had finished from the same college graduation, and both of them worked very hard. After several years, the boss promoted Arjun to be the executive of the department, but Aryan remained as a simple employee in that company. So Aryan could not tolerate this discrimination. So he went to the boss and he wanted to put his resignation. And he complained to the boss that he did not value hardworking staff, but only promoted those who flattered him. So the boss knew that Aryan was working very hard. But in order to understand, in order to make Aryan realize the difference between him and Arjun, the boss asked Aryan to do the following thing. He said, go and find out anyone selling watermelons in the market. Aryan returned and explained to him, yes, there are people who are selling the market, who are selling watermelon in the market. Then the boss asked him, how much is per kg or how much is per watermelon? So Aryan went back to the market to ask and returned to inform the boss, it is some 50 rupees or 60 rupees is a watermelon. It is 10 rupees per kg, something like that. Then boss told Aryan, I will ask the same question to Arjun and let us see what is his response. Then Arjun went and he returned and said to the boss, there is only one person who is selling watermelons. It is 10 rupees per kg. So it will be, if you purchase a 10 kg watermelon, you will be getting it around 90 rupees. He has around 340 watermelons. On his table, there are around 58 watermelons and each melon is weighing around 15 kg. They're all brought from nearby gardens and they're all 2 days old. They are fresh and very red inside and they are of very good quality. So Aryan was very impressed and realized the difference between himself and Arjun. So he decided not to resign, but to learn from Arjun. So here the perspective is successful people are more observant. They think more and understand in depth. For the same matter, a more successful person sees several years ahead, while we see only tomorrow. So think how far we have been able to see ahead in our life. How thoughtful or deep are us in our understanding. So this is the perspective what we have to differentiate between how thoughtful people are and how we are. We should not compare everyone. Okay, next, all of us can recite this verse. Yada hi nendriyarteshu na karmashu anusajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudastadochyate yada hi nendriyarteshu na karmashu anusajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudastadochyate. A person is said to have attained to yoga rudastadochyate, when having renounced all material desires. Sarva sankalpa sannyasi, he neither acts for sense gratification, na indriyarteshu, nor engages in fruitive activities, na karmasu anusajjate. So what are the symptoms of a person who is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness? He is pleased in himself and he no longer engaged in fruitive activities or in sense gratification. So what are the symptoms of a person without Krishna consciousness? So he is always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. So Krishna consciousness versus Ashtanga yoga. A devotee can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and he is perfectly detached from sense gratification. But others must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top stage of yoga ladder. That is the difference between Krishna conscious devotee and Ashtanga yoga. So when one becomes a first class yogi, or when one is considered to be elevated in the highest yogic platform or sannyasa platform, yada, at that time, na indriyarteshu, a person works not for sense gratification. That's all. Everyone works for sense gratification. In the material world, everyone is working for sense gratification. Everyone works here to get some reward, some remuneration for wages that is utilized for sense gratification. Now here it is said, yoga ruda, when one is perfect yogi, that is explained here that yadahi na indriyarteshu, when one does not work for sense gratification, na karmashu anusajjate, he does not engage himself in work simply for sense gratification, sarva sankalpa sannyasi, and he has no desire to get any fruit because he is desired thing, Krishna is actually already there. So he has no other desire. Yoga rudas tadochyate. At that time, he is considered to be situated in perfect stage of yoga. So once there was one unhappy young man who came to an elderly master and told him he was very sad in his life and was asking for a solution. The old man introduced the unhappy young man to a handful of salt in a glass of water and then drink it. Then the old man asked, how does it taste? The apprentice spat and said, it is very terrible. The master was laughing. Then he asked the young man to take another handful of salt and put it in the lake. Then the two walked in the silence to a nearby lake, and when the apprentice swirled his handful of salt into the lake, the old man asked, now drink from the lake. As the water dripped from the young man's chin, the master asked, how is it taste? He said, good, remarked the apprentice. Do you taste the salt? Asked the master. He said, no. The master sat beside the troubled young man and took his hands in his hands, and he said, the pain of life is pure salt, no more, no less. The amount of pain in life remains the same, exactly the same. But the amount we taste the pain depends upon the container we put it into. So when you are in pain, the only thing you can do is to enlarge your sense of things. Stop being a glass, become a lake. So this is the principle. So sometimes we limit ourselves, then we'll start crying. So why to limit ourselves? When Krishna is unlimited, there is every opportunity for us. So there was one job interview being done, and for a business school, and there was a panel of intelligent interviewers taking interview of the prospective students for admission into the subject. So when one of the prospective students entered the room and nervously sat on the chair, the panel said to the boy, we shall either ask you 10 easy questions or one really difficult question. Choose carefully, as it will determine your admission to the school. The boy thought for a while and answered, I would like to answer one really difficult question. Then they said, good luck to you. You have made your choice. Now answer us. What comes first, day or night? The boy was jolted into reality, as his admission depended upon the correctness of the answer to the single question. But he thought for a while and said, it is day, sir. How? Asked the interviewer. Then the boy said, sorry, sir, you assured me that I do not need to answer the second difficult question. He was selected for admission. So one should be smart enough to handle the situation. Then we should be also realistic. There was one young man by name Monty, who was son of a horse trainer, who used to go to the stables, racetracks, farms, training horses. As a result of boy's high school career was interrupted continuously. So one day at his school, he was asked to write a paper about what he wanted to be in his life when he grew up. That night, boy wrote a 7-page paper describing his goal about owning a horse ranch. He wrote his dream in detail and even drew diagrams of 200 acres ranch and all things he is going to include in his ranch, such as building, track. He drew detailed floor plan for everything he dreamed about owning one day. Next day, he handed out this project to his teacher. After 2 days, he received his paper back with F grade on top of it. The teacher asked him to meet her after class. So after the class, boy went to meet teacher and asked, why did he get that F grade? The teacher said the dream was too unrealistic, as you need lots of money to buy land, pay for horses, and later other things to be paid for. You have no money. There is no way you can ever do it. Write more realistic goal and I will reconsider your grades. That day, boy thought a lot about it and then went to his father about what to do. After listening to his problem, the father replied, "Dear son, if your decision and you have to make up your mind about as it's important for you." After a week, when boy again submit his paper, he gave the same paper he gave before without making any change. In it stating at the end, "You can keep the F and I will keep my dreams." So after many years, the same school teacher went on a field trip with 30 kids to camp on ranch for a week. It was very big ranch with buildings and track with built house. And to the surprise, it was the same boy's ranch to whom once she gave F for that paper. But realizing what she did back then, before leaving the ranch, she said, "Look, Monty, I can tell you this now. When I was your teacher, I was dream stellar. And I did this to a lot of the kids. Fortunately, you had enough courage not to give up yours. So follow our heart no matter what. No dream is too big or too small. When one can work hard, one can reach it." So by all these things, I'm not saying that today you dream something big. What we are saying, be realistic in your dreams. Because after hearing our lectures, people may feel, no, anything I can dream and anything I can become. But you see practically what is it and how I am going to work in that direction. Just achieving it is one thing and maintaining it for a long run is something different. So one should be able to achieve and we should be able to maintain it in a long run, then plan for it. So that's what the principle is. So any questions and doubts?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, a sannyasi is who leaves the family or who misses like sense gratification is a sannyasi, or can sannyasi be in the grahastha ashramam following Krishna consciousness?
See, anywhere we are, but he is not driven away by situations. Dress is secondary. Things will not disturb him.
Yeah.
So he is a sannyasi.
Like
so,
then he can be a sannyasi
ashrama
following a Krishna consciousness also with
that's what I'm
family.
saying. Sannyasa ashrama is different. See, he is called as Sarva Sangha Parityagi. His mind is detached from all material things.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes.
Prabhuji, namaste.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, namaste. Some people are telling to do more meditation instead of relying on religious activities. So how far this meditation is good?
See, meditation is for people.
Like there are so many institutions.
That's what I understand.
There are so many institutions
Continue.
There are so many institutions are telling that you do meditation more instead of doing the traditional religious activities.
Okay.
Kindly advise.
See, we have to understand certain things are prescribed for different time periods. Meditation is a principle which is explained for Satya Yuga, where one is able to do uninterrupted meditation for long years. So now we'll come into the next further verses. What is practical meditation? Then we can understand finally what is Krishna's advice when he was asked whether it is practical or not. He rejects this Ashtanga yoga. Arjuna himself will reject this Ashtanga yoga. He says it is practically impossible for me. So if Arjuna is not able to do with his own caliber, what to speak of we? So for us, his practical understanding is in Kali Yuga, how one can achieve the perfection is by chanting the holy name.
Holy name.
This is called as sound meditation.
Sound meditation.
You chant and you hear what you are chanting.
Okay.
A simple principle to achieve perfection. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. So thank you all of you. We'll again meet in the next week, and we'll.
Thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So,
Hope this class was very interesting.
Definitely.
Yes,
it was a
Prabhu.
very good class.
Yes, Prabhu, obviously.
Very
The
nice,
class was super
Prabhu.
amazing, Prabhuji.
Huh?
The class was super amazing, Prabhuji.
Okay.
He had so many doubts, Prabhuji.
Okay.
and the stories are really very good. It is touching the points.
Okay.
So interested.
Prabhuji, can we get the recording of this class?
It's there in YouTube. Directly, it is there in the YouTube.
YouTube, okay.
Okay. In the Hare Krishna Golden Temple YouTube channel, it is there live. It is going on.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.